Welcome to Mia the Passion Muse Show. This segment is on Feminine Beauty Awakening. And with me I have Alyana Freeze. And so welcome, I'm so excited to have you here for many reasons. One, and the most important regarding this show, is you are primarily an astrologer and you do have psychic abilities, but you're so in touch with the universe and so in touch with the feel and the knowledge of what goes on that as women, at least for myself, I know that I'm aligned to certain aspects of astrology, and I do not study astrology yet, but I know that I'm totally moved by the full moon. And I also, when a new moon comes, I also have a different feeling within my body. But the full moon is my joyful, happy time. And so, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Is there anything before we start to get into question and answers and talking back and forth? Is there anything that you'd like to clear up about the concept or the false ideas about astrology and our natural gifts that are truly inherent within us, and that some are just being able to tap into? Because we all have this amazing ability to know exactly what you know and exactly what the next person knows and to do amazing things. So, but there's a lot of fear, I think, from people due to, and I'm not going to use the word ignorance, but due to not understanding what it's all about.
Yes, Mia, that's a really good question, actually, and I think I can answer that on the psychic side and the astrological side. I think that the answers actually correlate too. As far as astrology goes, sun sign astrology is widely recognized. You know that you're a Leo. I know that I'm a Libra. And that's about all that people seem to know. And that's what it's written about in the horoscope columns and everything. In astrology, the sun is masculine and represents men. And I think that the moon is just as relevant and affects our lives just as much. But, the sign that the moon was in when you were born is entirely disregarded and overpowered by whatever sign the sun was in when you were born. Much like I think that feminine energy has been disregarded and sort of set aside in our world. Born under, that's how you best express your masculine energy. That's our initiating and creative ability. That's our ego. And our moon sign is our emotions, our intuitive side, our more spiritual nature. And that's the feminine energy. Obviously, men aren't born with just a sun sign and no moon sign, and women aren't born with just a moon sign and no sun sign. We have both of these energies. Mm-hmm. So I think with the feminine beauty awakening, women are being asked to acknowledge that part of themselves and not to be ashamed of it, mm-hmm. but to get in touch with that inner beauty.
Mm-hmm. And I love the duality that you just put there, that we're born with both. We're born with the sun. We're born with the moon.
Yes. We are born with both.
Which means we're born with the masculine and the feminine. That's beautiful. Yes. That is beautiful.
Yes. And the Venus and Mars, too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is a little bit more exciting.
Uh-huh. Can you explain, not the book concept of men are from Mars and women are from Venus, but can you explain to us about the correlation with Venus and Mars?
The correlation with Venus and Mars?
As far as masculine and feminine and how they affect us.
Well, yeah. Mars is like the Greek god of war, okay? So Mars is conquering, and Mars is that strong force of masculine energy. Yes. Well, Mars is frequently associated with male sexuality, right?
That's why I love him. Sorry.
You're like, duh, that's why I'm talking about him. Yeah. And Venus, of course, is the goddess of love. the Greek goddess of love, and so she is associated with that soft, receiving, feminine beauty, much like the moon, which is receiving, right? The light that we see from the moon is light received from the sun, and so that is, feminine energy. And,
you know what I love? If I can just jump in here, I'm so sorry. What I love is you just gave the concept of what's so important to me about this whole series of Feminine Beauty Awakening, except for in reverse. Now it's our time on planet Earth in these human bodies for us to do the reverse. Men are shining upon us and making us glow. Now it's our opportunity, and it's our birthright, and it's what we're supposed to do, is turn around and become fully encompassed with our femininity so that we can shine upon them here on planet Earth. I love that.
Yes. And just as I was talking a moment ago about how, we have the synchronicity of the universe to ourselves here on planet Earth, I think as we become more aware of these mysteries of divination and the other side of life, we become more aware of the feminine identity. And this lights up the masculine identity, like you were saying, because it truly gives him a purpose and a cause. I think that possibly what we have done is not only shadow ourselves, but shadow men, because we have not really allowed them to stand in their true roles, or honor their true energy, by trying to either be like them or hide behind them.
Right.
When what we really need to do is just be who we are as women. And that doesn't mean that you have to wear a dress or wear makeup. It doesn't mean that you can't do those things either. But it means that you don't have to be put in a box anymore, because we are just too big and too amazing to be narrowed down in any way.
Right.
We are like the moon. We have many phases, many changes.
I love that. And I appreciate her so much more now. That's amazing. You also speak about, you have some amazing blogs going, and you're a fabulous writer. And you talk about Scorpio. And I'm hacking your work here, so I'm not even going to say anything except for guide you towards what I'd like you to share with us. And truly, I believe what I'm asking is, as you explain it to us, if you can also wrap it around back to our feminine nature and the purpose of the Feminine Beauty Awakening.
Okay. So, using astrology and what I'm writing about currently. Well, I've currently been writing a short story series which is based on what I see happening astrologically at this time. And without getting too heavy deep into it, I'll just say that I see us encroaching upon a time of huge change. And I think that the structures, the systems, everything that we've kind of built up is going to be broken down. And I find that that is heavily based on a overemphasized masculine-only world, without the influence of the feminine energy, without the relationship between the feminine and masculine. And so I think that is how we as women tie into what is happening now, is that our influence gives the addition of the spiritual and emotional energy to mankind, where for so long what we have seen is, initiating masculine, warlike, even materialistic energy just dominate. Until it's become not only the positive of masculine energy, but also the negative, and that's where the war and the materialism comes in. We need a balance with the feminine energy in order to bring out the good of the masculine energy, because there is not anything wrong with masculinity or men.
They're great.
And I think that's one huge mistake of feminism, is that it really seems to cut down on the men, while at the same time asking women to behave like men. And that's a very confusing message for both genders. I don't think
it doesn't, and there's nothing. Not only has it knocked the access of masculinity way off, onto being such a masculine energy vibration on planet Earth, but it keeps people down. It keeps people in the wrong. It's like it's putting them in pegs. Instead of allowing them to be flowing free, it's putting them in their little spaces. And we're not made to be put into little spaces. We're not made to have, for centuries or thousands of years, millennia, we're not made to be quiet. We're not made to just go to war and to conquer, men. And the women are not made to be like little children, where they're seen and not heard, more or less, and to only please and to provide. We're here to receive. We're here to make sure that love is balanced. If we're not in our right space, we're not growing our future generations in the right space. And that's what has evolved. It's going to take many, 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 many generations to redefine our cellular growth, because cellularly it's all brought down upon each child that is born, and then they grow up, and then their children. Not only are we restructuring the teachings of how we love in this revolution that we're creating, but it gives a safety net for men and women to come together in a more harmonious way, outside of those little pegs that they were put into. And that's how I would really love to see this process of mankind, womankind, for the femininity to being feminine, being a woman myself. This is what moves me. But what moves me is to protect and to serve and to honor, and this is how I can honor my male counterpart. I love men, all men. I love the male energy. I love everything about them. I love everything, every aspect. And I think that women are afraid, and they need to get beyond that fear in order to support men fully and wholly. We can't be afraid that they're stronger than us and they're going to hurt us. We can't be afraid that they're going to make us be quiet, or we can't go out, or we can't do this or that. When there's love working and creating, and we're living in this type of environment and aspect, when there's love, how can there be fear? Because love is a light, and fear is darkness, and the light is always brighter than darkness.
That is so true. That is so true. And as women, I think sometimes we are so busy trying to fight off the masculine energy because it has sort of taken over the world, and we feel like there's no place for us. But what we really have to do in order to make a place for ourselves is receive that light from men and from ourselves, just as the moon receives light.
Right.
And we can reflect that love and that light onto others and onto our fellow women. As you were saying earlier, I think we were speaking and you said we can no longer be competitive with each other as women, and I think that is really so true, because that is not feminine.
Right.
To be so competitive. That is a negative embodiment of masculine energy.
Right. That was when you were interviewing me on the opening segment for this. Yes. When we're confident with ourselves, we cannot be anything but loving and giving and supportive. We're strong. I had an experience just recently that just brought me back around to the true essence of me, of who I am. And I was dating this man at one point who preferred blondes and Barbie dolls and things like that, but he loved me. And it was really, really hard, because if he would like dart off and check out this woman, I'm very, very confident. And before this happened, I was the most confident little minxy thing there was, And then when I would notice that he's looking at, these blondes that are, first of all, most of their hair is dyed, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything, or they have implants or whatever. It's not the natural beauty that was shining forth. And I found myself being negative towards these women. I found myself calling them a name that I would not, and I said, wait a minute, okay, I'm not in the right relationship, because I will not put down another woman because some man has made me feel less than who I loved. Doesn't matter. We're here to serve each other. We're here to love. And it just showed me what kind of relationship was I in, feeling that way. I didn't feel good about myself. So that has to stop, that negativity. So my small point here is about the competition. I wholeheartedly believe we are not in competition with each other. We're here to support and to love. And when I realized what I was saying, it made me sick, because when I realized that I was calling a beautiful woman, and I'm not talking about her physique, I'm talking about her soul. She is a woman like me, a sister. When I was referring to a sister like that, it just made me feel, it didn't resonate with me. And I just said, I can't do that. Look at me. I'm changing. I can't change. I'm only trying to change for the good, not to reverse and to be competitive, because I don't believe in that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because truly there is no competition. And you're right. When we're in alignment with ourselves, that beautiful femininity that we have, we are shining so bright to our male counterparts, because they feel it, and they're in their right alignment. Sometimes they have a protection towards us, and it's kind of awesome. It's kind of sexy, Not an overpowering, but just a different love base than what women give to each other. A masculine love is different, and it's beautiful, and we need it. And if we are heterosexual, we absolutely need that. So you're right, no competition, because there's enough for everyone. We all look different, our mates all look different, and not everyone is made for each other. They say only 5% will match us. Well, fine. I'm willing to wait, or, find my own, meaning that, the girl down the street that I, walked past yesterday and said hello to, she has a beautiful man waiting for her, because that's her divine right as well.
Yes.
And we're not here. We're here to grow ourselves. We're not here to grow so that we can catch a mate. That's not what it's about either. But the beauty is, when you're grounded, balanced, and centered, you shine, and what comes is your divine right for harmony, connection, relationship, if that's truly what that individual desires. So,
that's cool.
I have a question about astrology. When I was a little girl looking up at the stars on camping trips, we used to look at the Milky Way and things like that. Now, those are galaxies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Small. So, are those considered masculine and feminine?
Galaxies I believe, have the asteroid belt in them, and I don't think that they are considered either one. Don't quote me on that because I'm not quite sure, but I'm thinking that they're not considered either one. I know that one of the more famous asteroids, Chiron, there's a couple of pretty well-regarded, well-known asteroids that are considered either masculine or feminine. Like there's the asteroid Juno, which rules marriage, and she was, the wife of Zeus and everything. Or Chiron is a masculine asteroid. But I'm not sure about just the whole asteroid belt, if it's masculine.
Related and interrelated to the gods of Greek and Roman mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And other mythology that us as people in the United States, and since this is a web TV show, it's going out worldwide, but we're not as familiar with other people's early thought processes as well, because arrogance will will keep us, we're only going to teach this to our children instead of opening up love of everything. So it's curious to me how grand and vast it all is. And talking about the universe and astrology, and I mean, we can also get on the literal sense and go off into, are there other civilizations? But we won't. We'll do that another time.
Okay.
What other resonances or ideas that you would like to share from your point of view about femininity and how women can embrace themselves or feel? Anything that comes to your beautiful mind.
Yeah, well, going on what we were talking about before, I think it's so important for us as women to not be competitive, as you said, but going beyond that, actually to really love and accept each other. Mm-hmm. Because when we do that, we are accepting and loving femininity, and so we are accepting and loving ourselves. We just will never be able to shine as long as we are knocking each other down. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason that we do that is because the world that we live in now has only allowed just a very small slice for what is acceptable for women. And so we're all trying to fit into this very small space, and we feel cramped and crowded, so we feel like we have to be competitive with each other. But if we realize that there is a huge, vast space for us to exist in as women, and that we don't have to be limited, and I think that will really allow us to love each other. I mean, going back to the moon has so many changes to her and so many faces. And we as women have so many changes and so many faces. There's like this little narrow ideal that we're supposed to fit into, physically and with our lifestyles, and it doesn't work. And I hear people knocking down the ideal too, and like, going to the physical side of it, like, the ideal woman is like thin with like big boobs or whatever. And you hear women trash talking, that. And I think that is also not a good thing, because we don't need to get rid of the ideal that exists now. We just need to make more ideals. There's not just one.
Right.
And I think if we can just say that as long as we are being women and we are living in that true love of who we are and loving each other, then that is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Beauty is not narrowness or rarity. Beauty is honesty, sincerity, and love and truth. And that is something available to every one of us women.
Absolutely. And we're as vast as nature, meaning every single woman is beautiful, just like every tree is beautiful. The energy that flows from us, especially when we're connected, it's amazing and it's beautiful. And I like how you keep bringing us back to the thought of competition with women, because there truly should be no competition.
Yeah.
As we spoke about before. It's a unity. It's us helping each other, handing our hand so that we can lift each other up to join us. We're an army. We're a mass force. We're conquerors. But we're not here like Xena the warrior princess to, emasculate a man. We're here to love. Because when you think about it, and there are women who are hurt and don't care about men overall because they're hurt, and that's really too bad. But when you identify that whomever hurt you is not man on the mass majority, it was one individual, then your thought process may change. We're mothers. We carry male children. What more beautiful thing is that? We're women, so I don't have female children. I only have male. I've had a lot of miscarriages, so My surviving children are two males, and to think that uniqueness came out of me is amazing. Would I love to have a female child come out of me? Yes. She'd be so much in alignment with me, it would be uncanny. I wasn't ready back then, which is strange. I wasn't ready I never had female animals hardly. I never had, I never was given female children until I totally embraced who I was as a woman. And then I realized, because my background is I came from a mother who had no female friends, who was jealous of her two daughters, and I saw that as wrong from the moment I can remember. I always wanted to be different. I always wanted to love. And I always had a ton of girlfriends. My mom would say, "You change your best friends so much." Well, when you're little, of course you're running around being happy and joyous and, "Oh, so-and-so is my best friend now." But that's really our beginning stages of femininity. It's our beginning stages when we're young of expressing passion, joy, love, giving, forgiveness. It teaches us to be unafraid. It teaches us that we can be a true sister. And granted, elementary school is very, very difficult for many children, and there are many, many mean little children. But when we also think that what kind of environment are they raised in, it's sort of, your heart can soften. So, now, we're coming to a close here, and I'm just wondering, is there anything else fabulous? Of course, it's all fabulous coming from you. But is there anything else fabulous regarding astrology and femininity that you'd like to share before we close out?
Well, of course, I could go on for ages about astrology. But, most people don't know a lot about it. And I think as women, maybe the way that we should begin to understand the stars is by our sensual experience with them. And I do think that there is a very strong correlation between our femininity and the moon. So to any women watching this, I would encourage you to notice all of the ways in which the moon affects you, to go out and literally stand underneath the moon and look at it and see how it makes you feel inside. Because I think that is one way that we can really get in touch with ourselves. And as you feel the love from her, you can love her back. And then you can love your sisters and love yourself. And feel the cycles of the moon. Notice when she's a new moon, notice when she's a full moon, and see how that affects you. And I think if we can develop a relationship just on that level, if some of us can begin to open up to that world and see how it makes us feel, not just saying, "Oh, there's a moon," but asking, how does that moon relate to me? I think that that is one way that astrology can help us as females.
Well, the energy is so powerful when she comes into alignment as a full moon and as a new moon, that the energy does beam down onto planet Earth. It does. We feel it. Everything is energy. And of course it's going to affect women. And more women are admitting to it affecting them and how beautiful it is. A lot of women's menstrual cycles follow the moon. They do. And that alone is beautiful too. It's all very
One
magical.
piece of advice before we go that I would like to say about the moon is that, of course, it definitely influences our hormones and our moods as it influences our cycles. And a piece of advice that I like to give people is, if you are aware of astrology and what's happening, even to a small level, when you know that there's a full moon, you know that that's going to be intensifying your emotions. If you're aware of that, then instead of being taken for a ride, you can ride on it.
I love that. Thank you. That's beautiful. Use the energy for your power, for your good. Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mia.
It's always a pleasure, and your information will be in the credits, and people can reach you that way. All right.
All right.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you.
We'll
Bye.
see you. We'll see you all next week, and thank you for joining us. Have a good week.